I want to have a frank conversation around money. I want to talk about how do you win the year financially this year. And I talk a lot about affluence, and I want to just lay the groundwork here real quickly. And those of you that know me know that it's not a training with me if I don't do any kind of drawing. So I might just do some drawing on the iPad for y'all and everything. And that is that affluence is often confused with opulence. And that's not what I mean. Actually, affluence has 4 aspects to it, and I'm going to draw it out for you, and you'll see it if you stay here. You'll be able to see it this way. But there's 4 things that affluence have, an affluent life has. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a student, whether you're a homemaker. It doesn't matter whether you're a corporate exec. This is the way I started to look at things, and you'll hear a little more about my story and how this came about. But the first aspect of an affluent life is that it's a meaningful life. And what do I mean by that? I mean that it's a life that gives you joy from the inside out. Gives you joy from the inside out. The challenge is that a lot of times we spend our life doing things that isn't giving us joy. And so what I want to do is make sure that, first off, that the things that you're doing are meaningful to you. The second aspect is that it's impactful. The first part, meaningful, is internal. Impactful is external. It's how am I making a difference in the people and the lives that I serve, the differences that I make, the people that I get a chance to be around. Okay, so it's impactful. Now, meaningful life is typically has to do with the plan that you put in place. Impactful life typically has to do with the vision you create. Okay, now there's 2 other aspects to it. Now, the third aspect, and this is the only aspect that has to do with money, is that it needs to be a fruitful life. I got to pay the bills. I got to look, and I'm an accountant, so we're going to talk about that. And so I want to pay the bills. It's got to be fruitful. It's got to take care of my needs. It's got to take care of my desires. It's got to take care of my dreams. Okay. And that's about building what I call a money machine. We'll talk a bit more about that over this year and see what needs to be in place for that. And then the third aspect, and this becomes really important, I think, from the context of what we're looking at, is that it needs to be a peaceful life. I mean, if we look back of where we've been in the last 2 years and everything, is at really understanding how do we live a meaningful life, an impactful life, a fruitful life, and a peaceful life. That to me is affluence. It has nothing to do with opulence. You can have affluence sitting in a tent in Montana or a yacht in Monaco. Okay, it doesn't matter what your definition of success is, or your definition is, as long as it's meaningful, impactful, fruitful, and peaceful. And so as we move forward, when we talk about affluence, I'm going to invite you to take that on. If that makes sense to you, let me know in the chat. Let me know that this is landing for you. Okay, so whether you have, and I want to be really clear on this, because the very first key is this: the money taboo is keeping you broke. The fact that we can't communicate, or that we choose not to communicate about money, is a problem. I was just reading a thing. It was a law that was just passed in Ohio, where now it's a requirement for all high school students to go through a financial literacy program. And when we do some numbers here, you'll start to see how we can cure the financial ills. Now, the problem with the money taboo is we all have these stories. We all have these emotions, and I have them. I've interviewed billionaires, millionaires, and on down to people that are just starting out. And without question, every single one of them has some level of shame, blame, embarrassment, or guilt around money. Some because they have money, some because they had it and lost it, some because they don't have it, some for whatever reason, it's there. So the stories are something that we need to deal with. But if we have money problems, we can't solve money problems without having money conversations. How many problems in this world ever get solved without a conversation? So what I want to do is make sure that we have sane, safe conversations around money. And the first things to do is for you to commit to saying, I'm going to have a conversation. I'm not going to shun this money conversation. And I would be, I'd be remiss to do this if I didn't say this. I actually believe that there is no such thing as a money problem. Now, you might be saying, Mel, I'm trying to pay my bills. I'm trying to figure this out. What do you mean there's no such thing as a money problem? Now, this is hard for people to take on sometimes when I say this, but what you're really dealing with is a money symptom. See, where we are financially is a symptom of our behaviors, our habits, and our choices of the past. Okay? Everything's a money symptom of what we've done in the past. Here's the tough part of that. I now have to take responsibility of it. Remember what I said. You have to take responsibility. I didn't say blame. Okay. I am not without mistakes. I lost 1/3 of my net worth in a Ponzi scheme, well into 7 figures. Me and two other buddies, between the three of us, we lost $4.5 million. Okay. I had to take responsibility for it. I didn't take the blame, but I took responsibility because then it gave me the opportunity to say, I can change my behaviors. I can change my decisions. I can change my choices. And now I can change my money symptoms. And so it's important for us to start to have these conversations at a level that we start to understand that we're in the behavior game. It's not a money game when we look at it. So that's key number one.
Get ready. We're going to go through principles of financial fulfillment. If you've been with me for 12 months, I'm repeating some things here, but they're worth repeating. These are some of my core beliefs about money and life in general. The number one principle to financial fulfillment: spend money in a way that aligns with your values. Spend money in a way that aligns with your values. I've taught that for 25 years. What has been different about the way I have always taught money is that I believe it's values first and money second. When you are clear on what is most important to you, what are your values? And today I would, now if I were rewriting my books, I would say, and what are your principles? When you make financial decisions based on your values, based on your principles, your financial decisions will be easier. When you look at all the things in your life where you've gotten either stuck financially, you know there's all these things you should do. I gave you so much homework last year, like do this, do this, do this. And many of you have done it because I've gotten your emails and you've shared with me the work you've done. And some of you might have started it, then you stop. This happens all the time when we start to grow. We grow and we stop, and we grow and we stop. If you're clear on your values, why you're doing this work, you will follow through. Even if you get off track, you'll come back and you'll restart. If you're not clear on your values, it becomes very abstract. Like one of the things I always see financial experts talk about is the numbers of how you need to save $1 million for retirement. You need to save $2 million for retirement. I've heard people, you need $5 million for retirement. You need $10 million for retirement. The other day I watched somebody say, you need to have 25 times your annual income saved for retirement, or you can't retire. And if you're 70 and you don't have 25 times your money, you can't retire. What? Like such generic, bad advice. Because there'll be over 10,000 of you that will watch this. Each and every one of you has different values, different drives, different fears, and how much money and different lifestyles. And you live in different areas, and your expenses are different, and your health is different. And all of that gets factored into how much money do you need. But I can tell you this, when you show me somebody who's spending money in a way that conflicts with their values, I will show you somebody who will struggle financially for the rest of their life. If you show me somebody who is spending money or investing money in a way that conflicts with their values, and I will show you somebody who doesn't have fulfillment. The fastest way to have fulfillment is to use the money that you work so hard to make to save it and invest in a way that helps you reach what's most important to you, your values and your principles. And that, my friends, I could stop right there because what I've just said to you is incredibly deep. And you could just now spend an hour and really take that in and think about it. I'm not going to have you do that because I've got more content to share with you today, but it's so deep. A good financial planner should be asking you about your values, should be talking to you about your family's principles. And the thing about values and principles is they change and they evolve. What's most important to you is going to be different at 60 than it was at 50. It's different at 50 than it was at 40. As we get older, as our lives change, as our health changes, as the people around us change, not only do our goals change, but sometimes our values change. So these are very important, deep, not woo-woo things to talk about. They're really meaningful. So that's number one. Spend money in a way that aligns with your values. All right. Number two, pay yourself first. All right, my friends, you've heard me talk about this repeatedly over the year. If you've read my books, seen me on the Oprah shows, watched me on the Today shows, seen me on CNBC, I cover pay yourself first always. You will not have financial freedom or achieve financial fulfillment or reach your financial dreams if you don't pay yourself first. So for those of you who've never heard me speak, I'm going to quickly go over what it means to pay yourself first. I'm going to add a few things that some of you have not heard me say. All right. So what does it mean to pay yourself first? That means when you earn money, the first person who gets paid, who is it? If I was here, who gets paid first? Let me see it. Let me see it in the comments. Who gets paid first when you earn money? Point yourself and say, you get paid first. Yes, me. Not the government. You don't pay taxes first. You pay yourself first. You don't pay the bank first. You pay yourself first. You don't pay credit cards first. You pay yourself first. You don't pay leases, mortgage, car payments, on and on and on. The first person who gets paid is you. It is, I've always taught it as a step. It hit me in end of December, like it's a principle. It is a principle belief system. It's not a habit, by the way, although I'm going to show you how it can be a habit. It is a principle. It is a core way of living your life. Hopefully, if you're doing it, this is the way you'll live your life forever. And if you're not, it's the way you'll live your life starting today. And it doesn't even matter. I'm going to tell you how much you should pay yourself first, but I will start by saying what matters is that you do it. So you need to pay yourself first a specific percentage of what you earn. And then the second thing is you need to do it automatically. The third, automatically, meaning that you're not going to budget because you don't have time to budget. You won't follow through with budgeting. It takes too long. You don't need a budget today. It's too simple today. Today, with all the financial technology, all the financial service companies all over the world on an app, in minutes, you can be saving money automatically. And just literally, there's no limit to investing today. You can invest $1 a day. It's so simple today to invest in a diversified portfolio of exchange traded mutual funds. You don't need to know what stock to buy. None of this is complicated. You could simply start with an index fund, but you've got to pay yourself first automatically. And the number I recommend has always been 1 hour a day of your income. Now that's for people who work and have jobs and they work from 9 to 5. 1 hour a day of your income comes out to be 12.5% of your gross income. What I would like to see all of you do, the strivers in this room, I want you to save 15% of your gross income off the top automatically from here on out for the rest of your life. That's your pay yourself first goal. Automatically for the rest of your life. And here's the fourth thing that I don't always say when it comes to pay yourself first. You got to pay yourself first automatically, 1 hour a day of your income. And you need to not time the market. It is time in the market. What that means is the stock, because you need to invest in stock market. Your money's got to be a combination of stocks and bonds and real estate. It needs to be diversified. But your money has to out-earn inflation. Now, inflation has been a very minor issue for the previous 25 years. People have talked about inflation always being 2% roughly. It hasn't been a big deal. I've always said that that's a complete myth, that inflation actually is much higher than that. Inflation has been higher than that for decades because the things that matter, healthcare, education, and housing costs, have skyrocketed. So when you hear that inflation's been low, and now they talk about the inflation is the highest it's ever been, and I think in 50 years as of the end of the week, it's sort of, it's in some ways it's a little bit, it's not that it's meaningless, but it's not accurate. We've had inflation. All right, my 18-year-old son's about to go to college, and the cost for him to go to the average college in America is somewhere between $50,000 to $80,000 a year. It's so utterly insane what college costs today. When I went to college costs, I went to a private university. It was $6,000 a year. And it went up to the point by my time I was a senior, which was still, it wasn't like I was a senior for 10 years here, right? It doubled. It was $12,000 by the end of the year. That school's $80,000 now. So healthcare costs, the things I'm talking about, since I wrote that article in 2006, the cost of houses have basically gone up 2 times. So you've got to be invested, paying yourself first you've got to have money in the stock market. You have to have money in real estate because those are the asset classes that go up where you're on the escalator to building wealth. What you can't do, my friends, and please hear me on this, is you can't time the market. When the markets go down and if you panic and you sell, you will consistently wipe yourself out financially. If you sold in March of, now we're going back 2 years when COVID hit, and the market went down 32%, and you panicked in that month where the market dropped that much in 90 days, where a lot of people did, a lot of smart people did, and they're going to wait for the market to go back up and then invest. The market went back up and invested and completely recovered in 100 days, and then it doubled from there. You can't time the market. No one has been able to time the market. I am telling you, professional investors can't time the market.
There's 100 different performance variables in the literature that has been shown to lead to long-term success. But only 6 of them lead to long-term success and well-being, which means life satisfaction, if you will, happiness, and positive relationships over the long term. Meaning you and I both know some people have success and then they're jerks to everybody around them and they're miserable inside. Or they have success, but they burn themselves out completely without realizing you can have quote unquote success, but real success means you achieve your long-term goals. And while achieving your long-term goals, you maintain health and well-being and you maintain positive relationship and community. That's high performance. That's what we academically mean by the study of high performance habits. So the way that I do it, here's like, you want to know my famous battle board technique. Here's how I think of winning the month, winning the day, the hour, the year. Okay, everything begins for me on the first of the month. The first of the month has always been my growth day. So that's why we started calling this growth day, right? The first of the month. Every first of the month, always, since I was 19 years old, gets probably about 2 hours of real deep reflection and personal development. That means for me, journaling and planning. Journaling to capture where am I at in my life? How do I feel about all these major areas of my life, my health, my relationships, my wealth, my career, my lifestyle, my adventure, my family, my friends. So I do what's called the whole life assessment in the high performance planner. For those who have that, I basically journal on the high performance planner, the whole life assessment. I do that every first of the month. And I've been doing that for years. And then I also look out at the month. And I ask myself some simple questions about this upcoming month. I ask, what are my 5 major moves this month? Meaning, what are the 5 major activities or initiatives, you might call them projects, that I'm working towards and I'm moving forward? Those got to be on the board. I got to know that each month, right? We call them the 5 moves. So I know my 5 moves for the month. So I start with that. Second, plan, which is, okay, what's my 5 major moves? Then I break down my 5 major moves. So an activity, let's say one of the major moves is write book, right? That could be a major move. Well, what are the moves under that? What are the activities below that? Contact agent, write 3 chapters, do this type of research, and do these interviews. Okay, cool. Then I make sure that whatever I just wrote down has, block time. Block time. Meaning, whatever those 5 major moves I got to do that month, there's block time in the month. I mean, a block of time, meaning there is an hour dedicated to those subtasks of the activity. It's blocked in the calendar. It's protected at the beginning of the month. It's locked in that calendar. Nothing moves the 5 major moves. Y'all hear me? Though I set those like anchors in the month. Everything else rotates around those, is rescheduled around those. Those things are going to happen. It doesn't matter. Those things are going to happen. So now I've taken major things I should be working on. I've broken it down and it lands in the calendar. Now sit down with your spouse, or sit down with your executive team, or sit down with that right-hand gal or guy that you have and go through the calendar. I can guarantee your success based on how much you communicate your calendar. Let me say it again. I can guarantee your success based on how much you communicate your calendar. If no one knows what you are trying to do, no one can be along for the ride or support you. If no one knows the time in which you're trying to protect, they can't be your block and tackle person with you. So if you are striving alone in the dark all the time and not speaking to anybody, which is the lone genius metaphor that still exists in pop culture, but is completely antithetical to any real research in high performance, then you got to realize, I got to tell my spouse, my partner, this is what I am trying to do this month. Here are the major blocks. If you need to protect the time, this is what those blocks are. So that both, I'm assessing where my life is, I'm planning the month ahead, and I'm communicating the month ahead. You do that on the first of the month, it's a shift. It's a huge shift, especially if you're not currently doing that with discipline. Then my next growth day, if you will, is on Sundays. Sundays, I do a very similar process. It's shorter, but I also look out on that calendar. And that's where I'm sharing with Jenna, I might reshuffle things or change things. So I'm really focused on making sure that, and by the way, I want you to all know, I suck at planning. And I do this so that I still achieve my dreams. As you heard me share earlier, I have very free mornings. For me, I really protect my mornings. But still on Sunday, I evaluate where I'm going. Is this what I want? Okay, is that where I'm going? Great, okay, cool. On the daily, every day, let's talk about that. Every single day, I have my morning routine. You got to have your morning routine. For me, I get up for 20 minutes. I do a 60-minute morning routine. And I've built my life to be able to do that. And so it usually has this combination of these things: 20 minutes of movement, 20 minutes of reading personal development or leadership or history, 20 minutes with that high performance planner, planning out the day, setting the intention, prioritizing, and visualizing the day's activities. Here's what I mean by that. So when I write out my planner for the day and I have a meeting or a presentation or a work effort, in the morning, I already know that block of time. I close my eyes. I imagine that block of time. I go, how would I do that with excellence? How would I do that with excellence? How would I do that with joy? What might trip me up or stress me out? And how would my highest self deal with that situation? So I look at every major thing I have to do that day, and I just close my eyes and I visualize it and think about those questions. In other words, that's what a pro would call mental rehearsal, visualization, good old fashioned personal development. Imagine it before you do it and you'll do it better. Especially if you heard what I just shared. What might trip me up? What might stress me out? So as an example, today, I thought, what might stress me out, trip me up? If I don't eat enough, I better make sure I've got food, I've got water, I've got everything handled. Okay, great. Because when I don't do that, problems after this many hours. Okay, cool. Got to make sure I do the self-care. So I imagined that this morning. Okay, God, that gets that mental visualization preparation every day. Every day. So that might sound like a lot, but it's not. Other secret. Growth Day members, you know this. Friday finishers. A Friday finisher, what does that mean? You should have next to your computer or on a wall somewhere, a Friday finisher is your task list for the week. It means these things, it might be, you might call it your deliverables, your task. It means these items are finished by end of day Friday. Friday finishers, they're non-negotiables as well. Like, I gotta finish these by the end of the week. And by knowing my Friday finishers, I get to go in the weekend free. I don't know about you, but I hate getting to a Saturday afternoon and going, oh, I forgot I was supposed to do that thing. How much stress we have. Oh, I forgot I was supposed to do that thing. It could have taken 20 minutes of planning. And so I know that sounds like a lot. And some of you go, boy, Brendon's a control freak. No, remember, I'm wandering around like an idiot half the morning. I'm not a control freak. Guess what? As you've always heard, discipline gives you freedom. The more disciplined you are about the blocks of time in which meaningful processes, meaningful pursuits must happen, you protect those. You organize your mind and your day around those things and you move towards them. I promise you it will give you a different result. I promise you that will be a different result. This can be your day for personal growth. This can be that day you committed to and you remember and you go, that was the day I got myself a community. I got better coaches. I committed to making my life the absolute best that I could. This is that day. Make today your growth day. Click the button on this page and sign up right now.